Welcome to the Chat Marketing Podcast, your number one place to learn actionable strategies and tips that help you have more profitable conversations with your customers. This podcast is here to help you grow your business by better understanding your customers, speak to them on another level, and grasp the opportunities that lie in the chat marketing industry. And now, let's get chatting with your host, live from Melbourne, Australia, successful chat marketer and entrepreneur, Dan Pinney.
Hello, folks, and welcome to episode 18 of the Chat Marketing Podcast. Today's guest is Mel Eilers, the founder of Socially Sound, a Facebook marketing agency in the UK. Now, Mel is only relatively new to the chat marketing space, which is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to have her on, because she has this new lens on the space and is currently discovering the potential of what's possible with chat marketing and ManyChat. Mel has recently had some great success with chat campaigns for clients, and we delve into that, her background, and what the future holds for her in this space and in chat marketing. So without further ado, let's jump into our interview with Mel Eilers of Socially Sound. All right, Mel, welcome to the Chat Marketing Podcast.
Thank you, Dan. It's lovely to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Oh, absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to learning more a little bit about where you've got to where you currently are, and it's always an interesting story. But you have an interesting story, so I'd love to hear about your background and how I guess you got here to delivering chatbot marketing services for clients.
Yeah. So, well, as you know, I am a relative newcomer to the chat marketing space. It's been just a little under a year now for me. But my background is in B2B publishing, in print publishing. And we're going back several years now, probably about 25 years. And I started out as a sub-editor, sitting on a news desk, a weekly title, Travel Weekly here in the UK. And it was news and features. And my job, along with the rest of the team, was to take the stories that the journalists did, dot the I's, cross the T's, change the sentence structure, and make it very readable for our target market, and put in the headlines to draw in the readers and the intros. So my background really is in conversational marketing from many, many years ago. And obviously over the years it has evolved. I then went, I think about 15 years ago now, I decided I didn't want to work in corporate anymore. I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted a bit more flexibility. I wanted to work at home sometimes. And that was just at the start where, going back some years, where you could just about get some Wi-Fi, in your home on the dial-up. And that's where I decided I wanted to be. But I continued in the B2B space, and I worked for other titles. I did a lot of work in the health and beauty industry, in the motor trade as well. And I also worked on some technology titles as well. And that's really where my love of technology probably, and how things fit together, and automation probably comes from as well. So then I actually took a break to have my kids. And when it got to sort of October 2017, I had 2 kids in nursery, and I was like, wow, now I need to get back to work. Now I need to go and use my brain again. But what can I do? Because my background was in print, and print, as we know, this was 4 or 5 years ago now. Even then it was starting to decline basically. And I didn't really want to be in that space anymore. But I still wanted something that kept me either doing writing or copywriting or a very similar industry. And I hit on social media. So I retrained in social media marketing on the organic side across Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and loved it. And I worked with clients doing their organic social media for a couple of years, actually. And I loved the way that social media, when it's done properly, is conversational. It's social, and I spent a lot of time working with brands, getting them to understand that it's social media, not sales media. And it still drives me insane now when I see brands just putting out sales posts and then wondering why they don't get any traction on it. And it's like, well, it's and so my whole thing now is about sort of conversation, and community leads to conversion. And that is kind of where I've now repositioned my business. I don't do social media management anymore. I then retrained in Facebook ads because I had a lot of people ask me about ads because, you know, the Facebook ad platform is obviously huge. And I remember opening up Ads Manager one day and I looked at it and I went, whoa, I can't go in here without any training. It's just, look at that. That's all just letters, numbers, figures. That means absolutely nothing to me. But again, it was technology, so it appealed to me. So I trained with Emma Van Heusen, who here in the UK is pretty much the person to train with. She's trained by Facebook's global team. And that was 3 months of me pulling my hair out, trying to understand how to do an effective Facebook ad strategy. And for people who don't know, who you know, small businesses, I can see why they think that Facebook ads don't work, because it can be quite complex, and it's a matter of understanding all the moving parts. But it was thanks to a Facebook ads client last summer that I discovered chat marketing. They were not really getting any traction with their email nurture sequence. For what reasons, I'm not entirely sure. And they asked me to look into messenger marketing to see if we could deliver the email nurture sequence through Messenger. And so I thought, okay, yep, I'll look into this for you. And so I sat down one afternoon with a cup of tea because, you know, I'm a Brit, so we have a cup of tea. And I thought I'll have an afternoon looking at this. And I think, Dan, I didn't come up for air for about 2 weeks. I think I went into ManyChat and I was like, wow, look at this. To me, it was like opening up Aladdin's cave. It was technology. It was conversational. It was like the social side of social media marketing all kind of rolled into one and presented in a format that I could really understand and know that I could do with the flow builder and inside of ManyChat. And it was like, well, that's amazing. And then you're using randomizers and conditional logic and tag. And I was absolutely blown away. And then I literally was about 2 weeks out from the Conversations conference. And I thought, well, now I have to buy a ticket for Conversations. And so I did. And it was all online, which was good because it would have been too late for me to fly anywhere. And I sat here in the UK. The time difference was quite bad. And I think we started at 10 o'clock at night and finished about 1 a.m. when I was like, oh, I have to go to bed now. But yeah, that is how I started. And I haven't looked back. I absolutely love it.
That's
I'll
amazing.
Take a breath now.
No, it was great. I think we had a similar time difference Conversations as well. I think the next time I was about 4 a.m. wake up to get up in time for that. So yes, I certainly resonate with the time difference, but it was awesome to be able to still attend and to have so many people from around the world. It was really great.
It was.
It's a fascinating progression, and I think it's actually it's quite similar progression for a lot of people that have found chat marketing and in their business that have gone from organic social media to paid social media to then going, well, how can I get better results, and chat marketing be that resort for them to be able to deliver that for clients. But let's go before then and be like, you know, how with that print background, and really interesting that your skill set lies in being able to get a reaction from obviously a small amount of real estate in the print space, being able to succinctly get the message across. How much of that skill set are you now using in chat marketing? Because I'd imagine there'd be a lot of overlap and things that you've crafted over a couple of decades of experience that now you're like, I know how to say something succinctly in the current medium, you know, to be able to get that reaction.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely. I mean, going back to B2B marketing in print, depending on the title, well, actually all titles at the time, they probably still do now. Everyone has to adhere to a style guide. So, you know, you use the way you use certain terms and phrases, and you spell something this way and not that way. So I quite like the way that in chat marketing, it is a lot more conversational, and you can get responses from people just by the language that you use, which is different to B2B. So in B2B, you're very much trying to get across the news, to get across across the message. Whereas in chat marketing, it is it's more two-way, isn't it? You're looking for responses from your consumer, from the questions that you are asking. But I've always loved language and the way we communicate using language. And language has massively evolved, I think, in our terms and our phrases with technology in the last, 15 years maybe, and how we used to formally write emails, dear so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. And it was like writing a written letter that we would have written 20 years ago. And now we don't. And now email is a little bit more informal. The other spectrum of that is looking at my daughter's text messages and going, well, I've got absolutely no idea what you're saying to your mates there. That makes no sense to me at all. That's language in a way, but it's not language that really hopefully will ever come to the fore, especially in chat marketing. I just love the way that chat marketing has much more of a conversational feel to it, and by asking certain questions, and whether you're using the user input or quick replies, you can kind of help guide the questions and help the actual person to feel like they're actually having a conversation, even though they're probably well aware it's a chatbot, which they should be, really.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yes and no. I think a lot of people think that, wow, these people are really responsive and can really ask a question straight away. I have had some people and have seen some conversations thinking that. I think that touching on that point around language and then how you can use that in chatbots to bring them to life, but also you must find this interesting spot and talking about style guides, etc. Sometimes do you find yourself having to go, I need to talk to these people like human beings, I need to be on tone for the brand, but then there's this person in the back of your brain probably saying, you can't use those words, or that grammatically, or no emoji doesn't fit here. But it's kind of like, that's how people communicate now, right? And it is, and that is how we need to communicate with our customers going forward, right? Yeah, definitely.
In chat marketing as well, it's, for a long time, even in some cases now, I can't bring myself to put emojis in, mainly in emails or on my social posts. But in chat marketing, for some reason, I feel really comfortable doing it. Yeah. And GIFs as well, because they're supposed to be fun. And you have fun with your customers. In an event, you're only going to increase their brand loyalty or their interest in your brand. So you need to talk to, a tone of voice is huge, I think. And I know when I build bots for clients, not everyone has a tone of voice document as part of their marketing arsenal, but some people do and some people don't. If they don't, I tend to then look at emails that I've received from them, or I look at them on video and I go and stalk their social posts, or I look at their landing pages. A bot for a client I built recently, I actually know her really well, and speak to her probably once or twice a week, and I know her phrases. That she picks up. Certain people do say some phrases a lot, and it's just part of their language. If you can pick that up, and then you can put that into the chatbot, it not only humanizes it all, but it does wonders for the tone of voice and helps the brand resonate through all the marketing channels. So that's what I love. I am a lot more casual in my chatbot conversations than I used to be in my B2B publishing, that's for sure.
Yeah, I bet. I think that's such an underrated skill and something that people probably don't talk enough about. Obviously, there's all of the ins and outs of chatbots and, you can really geek out. But at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter if you're not actually having the right conversations or knowing how to drive people to that next step in that journey. So I think that's really interesting that you've touched on that, and to be able to have that skill set. And a lot of the best marketers, I think, are quite similar, or chatbot marketers, that is, are quite similar, that they actually focus as much on the conversation and the design of the conversation and being able to say the right thing as they do the ins and outs of how to automate something at the end of the day.
Definitely. I always advise people that now, whether it's for their social media posts or whether it is for their chatbot flows, I always say if you are your brand, and someone described this to me actually initially when I was training a long time ago, and they said if you are your brand and you're standing in a room physically with your customers, what are you going to talk about and how are you going to talk to them about? It wouldn't be you standing there going, well, my brand does this, my brand does that, and sell, and it wouldn't be just a one-way conversation. You're asking questions, you're waiting for their answers. And it's very chatty, it's very conversational. So when people struggle to know how to communicate to their customers, I say, well, pretend you're in a room with them. What would you say to them? And they're like, well, I'd talk about this, and I would ask them this, and I would ask them this. And I'm like, well, that is what you need to be putting into your social media posts and into your chatbot flows, depending on what outcome you want of your chatbot flows, obviously.
Yeah, that's that's such a great point, and I think, like I said, it's just such an underrated skill to be able to get that, and something that I think a lot of businesses overlook in the whole process. Can you remember when that client said, "Can you investigate this chatbot side of things?" Had you actually experienced a chatbot before then, and had understood how they sort of work or the background of what they are?
I think I had. It wasn't ManyChat, definitely. It was probably more like being on a website and then like a corporate website. I think actually it was an insurance, probably my business insurance, and I needed to change something, and they popped up and they went, "Can I help you?" And I thought, well, let's give this a go. And they solved the problem really quickly. It was a human, because they kind of said, wait 2 minutes whilst we go, and then they did, and then they solved the problem. Sure. And I was like, well, wow. That's quite amazing. And then when the client asked me to look into it, I'd heard of ManyChat, and I thought, well, I'll start there. And I started there, and I ended there, and I didn't really go any further.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, once they go down that rabbit hole, being able to investigate the possibilities of it. What was the main thing that stood out to you when you first discovered them that was the most appealing for chatbots?
Oh, well, there was quite a lot. But I think for me, having trained in social media marketing in the organic side and then trained in Facebook ads, I looked at the functionality within ManyChat, and I could see that, if you were a small brand that didn't have the money to spend on Facebook ads, because you do need budget ideally, that there was many ways of using a chatbot organically to help your organic growth. And that is, whether it's through the ref URL, whether it's through the QR code, whether it's through the comment growth tool. And I was thinking, well, this is amazing. If small brands who just want to try and boost their customers through organic ways, the ManyChat fee here in the UK for, I think, up to 500 subscribers or something is less than £10 a month. And if you can learn how to build a few basic flows and attach them to a ref URL or a comment growth tool for your organic page, you stand a good chance of dramatically increasing your organic growth. Obviously, as well, there's ways that you can put them into the ads as well, but it's the way it kind of worked for both sides. And I thought, well, this is amazing, because so many people say how difficult organic growth is on Facebook these days, and it can be tough. Yeah. I mean, a good strategy that is about social media, not sales media, will always help, but using these extra tools as well will certainly help you to learn more about your customer, because the conversation is two-way. And I also could see benefits for how it would help bricks and mortar stores as well. Through the QR code, thinking about how during lockdown, many businesses could have benefited by using ref URL or QR codes. Their bricks and mortar stores are shut, but many of their customers are probably thinking, say, for example, a beauty salon, they haven't been allowed to open here in the UK for a while. Had they built a flow and connected it to a QR code and a ref URL, they could have answered all those questions about how you can still get hold of our products. Obviously, they can't do treatments, where they could pick up with the click and collect, and they could put the QR code in in the door of their bricks and mortar store. They could make it into a social media post. They could use the ref URL and drop them into all the local community groups. And everyone still has their business front of mind if they are still able to operate within the COVID rules. And I just thinking, well, this is just amazing, absolutely amazing. So, for me, I think it was definitely the way that the chatbots could sit organically as well as on paid. And really, really, really exciting stuff.
Yeah. And the interesting part of that is like you mentioned, you're only relatively new to this space, in inverted commas, saying this from someone that, has been in it for all of 4 to 5 or 3, 4 years, whatever it's been around. It sounds like we've been around for ages, but it's literally like a blip on the radar in this whole digital side of things. Like it feels like it's been around for such a long time, but it really is only brand new. When with that client that was like, can you go investigate this side of things? I want to know how it would work. What was interested to hear what was the process in someone that is only relatively new, because there's been a lot of developments in the industry. There's a lot of features that have been around for probably a year, 18 months or so now. What was the process for you to go, well, this is where I need to start with the client, and what did you then actually implement for that client after doing that investigation?
Well, so for that client, when they asked me to look into that, we were actually only a month away from the end of our contract. So I didn't get time to do huge amounts. Yeah. And when I first found ManyChat and started looking into conversational marketing, I myself sat there and went, oh my goodness, where do I start? Because it's huge. And there are so many kind of entry points, and you kind of have to pick, it's difficult to know, I think, as a newcomer, exactly where to start your learning. But I then went into the ManyChat community, and I soon realized in there was quite a huge wealth of people that were, the community is very active, isn't it? And there are some trainers and educators in there that are absolutely fantastic at sharing all their knowledge. And I found Mackenzie Lieberman, I found Kelly Noble Mirabella, Trilce and Angela, and obviously then I listened, into Mike Yann's keynote as well. And for me, that was like, wow, and then I found Kelly's YouTube channel, and I watched
it's a famous
so
YouTube
much
channel for chat marketers, isn't it? I think everyone's gone through Kelly's YouTube channel, because she's got so many amazing videos.
So many amazing videos, but the videos that really go down to like the nitty gritty of like one little thing, and this is how you do it. It's not like trying to cover, the whole of chat marketing in like 3 videos. She literally breaks it down right into the nitty gritty. And so I basically spent 2 weeks looking at all of this, reading all the blogs, looking through the community to see what all the questions were. And at the time for this client, I then built them out an FAQ on their bot, and in all honesty, compared to what I'd built now, quite simplistic. It was an FAQ about their products, and it then led into their website to learn more about the product. If I was doing it now, I would do it a little bit differently, and I'd probably try and get them to implement Shopify and bring on the whole e-commerce side of it as well. But my contract with them ended in September, I think it was. So, yeah, I mean, I'd love to get my hands on it again. But
yeah, but I mean, at the same time, you say like it was quite basic and it was quite simple, but even just having things that at least drive, it sort of goes back to your insurance example, right? At least having something that drives people to the right point and setting expectations of where they can go and where they can find out information is, I think these little things that we probably take for granted a little bit are quite undervalued for those smaller businesses. And starting basic is, I think, one of the best ways to start in this space.
Yeah, definitely.
And build from there. We'd all love to have the biggest, most engaging, most automated, sophisticated chatbots out there, but sometimes you just can't. And you
but
do
it's
need
also
to stop
sometimes it's
bit.
not needed. Sometimes
Exactly.
it's just not needed. And I've had a couple of people have spoken to me before and said, oh, I want a bot. And I'm like, what do you want it to do? And they went, I don't know, but it just sounds really cool. I really want a bot. And I'm like, well, okay, that's great. I'm very, absolutely stoked that you're interested in this this space. But it's kind of, you need to, starting working with the client, you almost need to know what is their end objective, and then work backwards from that in order to try and get them the outcome that they are trying to achieve. And you just go, I want a bot. They'd be like, well, great. What do you want it to do?
Yeah, that's a pretty broad question.
Yeah.
Now that you're working in this space and you're still obviously doing the paid side of things, but how do you find chatbots compared to other mediums? You mentioned that the client had like an email sales sequence. How are you finding chatbots compared to things like email? And then just in general for results that you can deliver for clients?
Yeah, I think this really goes towards, talking about going omni-channel, I think, for brands now. I mean, it's, all very well you having your email and you having your website, but trying to get, other marketing channels with WhatsApp for business or whatever it is, it's now omni-channel is trying to get all those channels to kind of work together. And, that was another thing that attracted me about ManyChat was the ability to use the SMS and the email function within the same platform, as well as the flow builder. But I think email open rates are generally lower than they ever used to be, and I think it's because there's quite a lot of them. I mean, I get a lot. Some of them there's very few that I actually open up and read, and the ones that I open up and read are the ones that are conversational, the ones that are very chatty, rather than going, and this is our new product, and you'd be like, oh, okay, not really that interested. And people's email boxes are full, but not many people will ignore a message in Messenger, that ping, and you're like, oh, who's that? And then they go into it, and they're like, and the open rates are, from what I'm seeing at the moment, are higher. So I built a flow for a coach here in the UK a couple of weeks ago, and it was only connected organically to a Comic Growth tool, and I think she used the ref URL in a couple of places. So it didn't get, it wasn't as widely used as the Facebook ads that she was running, but as of the people who came into that flow, 90% took the intended action, which was to sign up for a webinar. And that's pretty amazing. And the 1% who didn't then went and looked at I took them through a slightly different flow, and they went and looked at the landing page, which was all about the course that she was trying to sell anyway. So it was still, it was a huge result. I was like, that's really amazing. That's 90%. And it was literally 3 or 4 message boxes and one click of an email, and then that was it. And then her tech support linked it up to Active Campaign, and their email then took over with the Zoom details and everything like that. So it was quite a simple thing, but 90% took the intended action. And then on the because it was a confirmed event, I could then use the confirmed event reminder tool to send out the reminders at the time. And I think of the people who received it, 100% read the messages, and the click-through rate was between 77 to 96, which would be a little bit lower because I tend to pick up Messenger on my phone, but if I was receiving a webinar link, I'd go, oh, there's my reminder. I must go and sit on my desktop.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I wouldn't necessarily click through from my phone. So, but even that, 77 to 90% click-through. It just shows, I think, the potential that is there that brands possibly need to utilize a little bit more. And people take notice of Messenger, and it's quick and it's easy. And so, some of the emails that come into my inbox are like, so long, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I end up just not reading them.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah. It's interesting. A couple of things you touched on there around, you open your emails that are conversational, and I think as human beings we gravitate towards that type of marketing more now because we're using conversations with peers and etc. a lot more now. But then you've got that, I guess I'm not sure whether fluffy is the right word, but that side of things it's engaging, but then the numbers people will go, well, that doesn't sell product or improve our profit for the business overall. But then you're like, well, on average for your emails, only 1 in 5 people are probably opening your emails. We're getting a conversion rate on a landing page, which probably is, I don't know, maybe around 20% for a webinar landing page, but we're getting close to 100% of people opting in for that webinar. Plus, then you add, you mentioned those little questions that you asked them before they actually signed up. Like, are you generating some info about those people as well that then, because if people go through to a landing page and sign up for a webinar, it's name, email, but I don't really know that much about you other than you'll hopefully come along to my webinar. But those questions in there, you can ask a couple of things about them, generate a little bit more info from them to deliver more personalization down the track. And then from a numbers perspective, like you said, the 70+% click-through rate, which is incredible. And then obviously from a webinar perspective, that increases the attendance rate as well, which is the goal, right?
Sure.
For webinars to be able
definitely.
to drive people there. So it appeases those numbers people as well. And like, what was the reaction from the client, can I ask, around, investigating that and being like, this, was that the first time that they'd run a chatbot for a webinar? Do you know?
I think it was, yes. And to be brutally honest, I haven't actually spoken to her yet because this was only earlier this week.
There you go.
That's
nice and still
that's
fresh.
on the list for tomorrow, is just to touch base with her and put out some of the figures her way. But when I did speak to her assistant, she said, the interest in the webinar has been phenomenal. It was a whole part of this, masterclass setup, and they were very, very pleased with the way that all the marketing efforts had driven the challenge that she was doing. And I mean, on day one, I did dip into it actually, and through their own marketing and through the chatbot and everything, she had, I think, 180 people on a Facebook Live, and when she opened the doors to the group, I think she had 800 people waiting to get in there, which didn't all come from chat marketing. To be brutally honest, it came a lot from ads and from organic, but it was all the marketing channels at the same time, and she did phenomenally well. So absolutely amazing results.
Yeah, I think when people
Definitely.
sort of start to see the potential for it, and of course chatbots aren't the silver bullet. Like anything, it needs to work in place with everything else that you're doing in the overall marketing strategy.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
it can really enhance it, and
Yes.
it can really improve the numbers that those other channels are delivering as well. Certainly not to be underrated. Can you sort of now look back on, when you came across the chatbots and you were looking at ManyChat and going there, and then now looking forward, only a handful of months down the track, but can you imagine, and now obviously this is a focus for you in the business amongst other things as well, but can you imagine where you would be if you probably hadn't come across, or that client hadn't said, I need you to investigate this chatbot thing? Do you think you would have eventually found it, or do you think it's something that has really made an impact on your business?
Oh, it's definitely made a huge impact on my business. I think probably without realizing it, I was still looking for something within the business. So I very much enjoy working within social media, but I don't really wish to do a whole full channel management for clients anymore because it takes quite a lot of work. And I love doing ads as well, and that's quite a complex set of skills needed for that. But chat marketing is something that I'm excited about getting up in the morning and excited to go to my desk. If I know I've got a whole day building a bot or writing about it. So today I was writing actually for someone else, doing some copywriting on chatbots about how on the Shopify integration and how that can really help the customer journey. And I'm excited to come to my desk, and I've actually now kind of in the middle of positioning the business to be more about messenger marketing. So there is the paid side of messenger marketing, and then there is the organic side of messenger marketing. And it kind of how ManyChat bridges those two sides. I think that is where I fit. That's where I feel very, very comfortable. And I feel so much more excited in myself. That sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? But
no, I think it's really accurate.
Yeah, and I think when you come to work and you're excited about what you do, and then when you start talking to people as well, and they can feel your excitement about the possibilities for their business, and that's huge. I think that's when you've found your bag, as it were.
Yeah, I think it suits a lot of people, and it sounds like it certainly suits you as a marketer as well. To and what you want to do, and relating back to, I guess, your past career, then you take a break with the kids, and then you're jumping back into work again. So after you've come back as a mum and working in your career as well and trying to find something different, and it is very different than a print media market and digitally sound, and then going into chat marketing, do you think it's suited the person that you are now, I guess is the question I'm trying to ask. Like, if you having probably that lens now in life as much as you do in marketing, do you think that suits that really well as well?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I get, I would say my kids are at school. They're clearly not. They're being homeschooled at the moment, but hopefully they'll be back in school. So time is limited. So I need to be able to work around their homeschooling. And my daughter sits up here with me. She's pretty good. She's 10, so she's pretty self-sufficient. But even with the kids in the house, it's quite distracting. So I need to kind of get my work done and be very efficient about what I do, kind of getting myself from A to B to meet my to-do list and my tasks and everything that clients need. And I think chatbots are the same. It's no one wants to go into a chatbot flow that's like, 30 blocks long. Everyone, the end always needs to be in sight from the start when you're building it, and you need to be able to keep their attention throughout. But it's got to be quick, whether they're signing up for a webinar, whether they're coming through an abandoned cart sequence in the Shopify integration. It's my thoughts now are, I don't have a lot of time, and the tools that I use and the communications that I use and the work that I do, it's kind of got to be efficient. It's got to get the job done. It's got to get the message across. And that's it really in its simplistic form. And I like I wish my kids could do the same thing, but unfortunately it still takes them 2 hours to put their shoes on and get out of the house. But,
you answered that a lot better than I asked that question. So and that makes a lot more sense. That was what I was trying to get at. How much I asked this question to all guests out there, how much of your success, only recently, but, throughout your whole career as well, has come down to hard work, and how much has come down to just pure luck and just being in the right place at the right time?
Oh, a lot of hard work, I would say. I mean, anyone who's worked in B2B print publishing on a weekly title, or even, I never worked on a daily title, but they know it's hard work. And when you're on print deadline, you're there until that paper's gone to press, even if it's 9 o'clock at night. You may start at 8:30, 9:30 in the morning, but no one leaves until that last page is gone. So definitely a lot of hard work. I didn't find training in Facebook ads necessarily easy, even though it's technology and conversation. There's a lot of strategy behind it as well. There's a lot of numbers. And even now, it's still not easy with the whole iOS and the conversion APIs that people are having to deal with. with the whole battle between on the privacy side.
Yeah,
it's a constantly changing arena. But then digital marketing you don't work in digital marketing for things to stay the same. But, technology does not stand still, and we can't either. You have to move with it. And I think, and also because being here in the UK, literally 2 to 3 months, I forget the exact date now of when it was, after I discovered chat marketing, was so excited about everything. Then the whole EU thing kicked in, and it was like, oh my goodness me, this is just absolutely devastating. And for those people listening who are not aware, then a lot of the growth tools were taken away because of Facebook trying to comply with the European privacy laws. And it was like, well, how do I get people into the bots? How do I, especially, and that was also combined with restrictions on the ad platform as well due to Messenger, which sadly have not returned yet, I don't believe. I'm hoping they will be. Yeah, but it's now, where are we now? I'm not quite sure when this is going out, but at the moment we're kind of in
Feb,
end of Feb. So at the moment we are nearing the end of Q1 in Facebook in 2021, and Facebook announced a couple of weeks ago, ManyChat did as well, that they are now rolling back a lot of the tools for the third-party APIs, which is amazing news because it means we've got the growth tools back. So I am now have a little bit more of a spring in my step as well. But equally, when it did happen, there was a lot of doom and gloom in the marketplace. And I kind of sat back and listened and watched what people were doing. And then the ManyChat in Europe face group started, and there were some real top people in there, some real good educators as well, coming out with saying, okay, we can't use persistent menus, so now you need to use quick replies, and this is how you do it. And I was like, oh, okay, so there's still ways. There were still ways of covering quite a lot of the functionality. It was just a case of thinking differently. Which is a challenge. It's always a challenge, and it takes hard work. But I think for me, chatbots I have found easier because it appeals to my language skills and communication skills, but also because I'm just really excited to work within the industry that actually I don't mind the hard work. So sometimes if my husband's watching something quite dull on the television, I'm there on the laptop and just, browsing through and going, oh, look at that. It's a bit sad, really, isn't it? But...
No, I think a lot of other chat marketers probably resonate with that as well, to be honest. That's interesting that you mentioned, obviously it impacted a lot of people in the EU and the restrictions on it. And I think there's ways around it. But like you mentioned, digital evolves as well. New agreements are come up with just recently in the last week. We've experienced that in Australia as well, where Facebook
of course you have,
decided to ban all the media, but just in the last couple of days they have come to an agreement. And
they've rolled it back, haven't they?
Yeah, so News is now back on the platform. So there was off for a few days, but it quickly evolves, and that's probably a huge example of how something can quickly literally change on a dime, and a lot of the content or a lot of the pages can be wiped off Facebook and then reinstated only a week later. So I think there's always, like I said, ways around it, people that can find some solutions for it. But I think your pedigree and going back to those print days and obviously being there, you're just there until the job is done. Is certainly something that will hold you in good stead going forward from a chat marketing perspective, just to be, we just need to find a way around it. Like, we just need to find a solution. It's there. So what does we're at the start of, like you mentioned, Q1 here in 2021. What can you see is your focus going forward for the rest of 2021 in the chat marketing space? Where can you see yourself going, and I guess also the industry going as well?
I think the industry itself is only going to evolve from here. And obviously, just referencing ManyChat again, they are hugely progressive. I'm stupidly excited about what Conversations 2021 is going to bring, even though it's months away. And I'd love to know if I'm actually going to be able to go to something this year or not.
Yeah, you and me both.
You know that there's going to be a whole load of new tools coming out. They're constantly tweaking. I I love the way that you can put in feature requests. So if something is not working, or there's something there that you think that actually this would really enhance it. And actually, one of the product, I can't remember what she was called now, something like a product technician reached out to me on LinkedIn last month from ManyChat, and she said, I see you've upvoted this feature request. Would you mind jumping on a call with me, and we can chat
cool.
about this feature request, how it would help your business, and how you're using ManyChat in your business anyway. And I was like, wow, really? So then I jumped on a Zoom call with two ladies from Russia, and they ran through everything, and I sat there and I spoke to them about it, and it was like, thank you very much. And I was like, no, thank you. Honestly, how often do you get a chance to kind of talk to the product teams about how you're using their product in the business? It doesn't. I know other people do it, I know, but I've certainly never had that opportunity before.
Yeah, definitely.
So I love that about ManyChat. With regards to my business, I am certainly looking to increase my knowledge and my build skills. I'm very confident in what I do now, but I want to. So within the ad space, I work with a lot of e-com clients. So I want to. This is why I was looking into the Shopify integrations today, and I want to try and learn to build in the Shopify integrations and how that can really help clients as well, and how it can differ from. I'm trying to explain this way. For example, if someone abandons their cart from a Facebook ad, you don't know why they've abandoned their cart. Fair enough, it's probably because the doorbell's rang or their child's fallen over, but there could be any number of reasons. But if you bring that person into a chatbot, you can find out their why. You could, before taking them into an abandoned cart sequence for a discount code or an alternative product, you could say to them, hey, I noticed you abandoned this product. Would you mind me asking you why? Was it A, price, B, color, C, style, or D, I got distracted? And then, whatever they click on, then you can then take them, if it was I got distracted, you could take them into a lighthearted flow going, well, I know it happens a lot. Did the doorbell ring? Did the dog bark? Anyway, here's that product. If it was style or color, you can then obviously direct them to other ways. And if it was price, you can then offer a discount code. And that is very, very powerful. If you can find out your clients why, I think it can really help you as a brand to build your business and build your loyalty and help your customers on their customer journey throughout your business. So that, I think, is moving into e-com is something I am very keen to explore and build for clients in 2021.
Yeah, that's a very exciting future that you've got planned. E-commerce is one of those things that, like you said, you can go down a real rabbit hole with it, but it does, and particularly in your situation at the moment, and you mentioned in the UK, and even bricks and mortar businesses that haven't been opened that may have an online store, like being able to enhance what they can do or to combine what they're doing with their bricks and mortar store just opens up these amazing opportunities. So
sure. I'm
sure a lot of people will appreciate you going down that rabbit hole and exploring a little bit more about the e-commerce space.
So.
And I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun with it as well. I always finish with the last question. Is there anything I haven't asked you yet? Do you think people would find interesting and relevant?
I actually think it's also important to point out a couple of things when it comes to chatbots. The first thing, probably very boringly, is compliance. It's a huge area
in your area of the world.
Particularly over here, and particularly, you can't just jump on a chatbot and spam everybody. You wouldn't, you shouldn't, and you shouldn't want to be that brand who does that anyway. Always very clear to have a strategy. But compliance is huge, not only within ManyChat, but also terms of service within Facebook themselves. So I have all the compliance documents bookmarked, and I make an effort to go through and look through everything. So compliance is one thing, context is another, as well. It is conversational marketing, but you have to be aware of the rules. So, for example, I mentioned earlier about the confirmed event reminder. You can't send out a confirmed event reminder that says, hey, first name, it's time for that webinar. Here's your link, because that will get pulled up by the bots, because you need to be very explicit that a confirmed event reminder is for an event that a person has confirmed that they are attending. So you need to put that into the bot that says, hey, first name, this is your friendly reminder that the event that you have registered for is now about to start. So even though it's a very fun industry to be in, compliance is huge, and people have to realize that. That's probably quite a boring thing to end on, but
no, but it's a relevant thing though that I think is becoming. You even look at the communities and the conversations in the groups, that it is something that's probably, the old 80-20 rule, that is a majority of conversations. People are, why have I been blocked, and why won't this work, and how come I can't reach people? And Facebook doesn't take any prisoners with it.
No.
You don't get a second chance with it. So, and if you're doing the wrong thing, then you risk it impacting not only your chatbot but your business overall and your whole presence. So, or clients' businesses as well. And I truly believe in that the learning never stops. Yeah. Right? It's despite whatever industry you work in, especially if you're in technology and you're working in social, the learning never stops, because the technology is continuing at an absolutely astounding pace. And if you stand still and only work within the parameters of what you know, you're soon going to get left behind, and you're soon probably not going to be compliant. And it really pays to keep up the learning, keep up the education, and keep the communication coming from yourself within the communities that we work in. So within the ManyChat communities and other Facebook communities that work in Facebook ads, conversational marketing, and making sure that we are the ones that know the information in order to be able to educate our clients as well, to make sure that they don't get in trouble. Yeah,
which
that
is
a
very
great
important.
point. Yes, it's important and a great point to finish on as well. So, Mel, where can people find you, find out a little bit more about you, what you do, and how you can help?
You can find me at my website, which is sociallysound.co.uk. You can find me on my social channels, socially sound on Facebook and Instagram, and I think of course I'm under my normal name at Mel Eilers on Clubhouse. I see no brands allowed on Clubhouse.
Yes, that's it. That's an interest. Sorry. Yes, that's an interesting new call to action that a lot of people have only been doing recently as well. Go and find me on Clubhouse as well. So, yes, that's
everywhere.
Well, to give the listeners out there background, that's where I found you. And we've had a lot of conversations in the space around chat marketing, and are constantly having discussions with a lot of chat marketers. So it is a great place to find people like yourself as well.
It is, definitely.
Hey, Mel, it's been a lot of fun. Really interesting to hear about your story, and like I mentioned before we recorded, everyone sort of has their little own call it a journey, for lack of a better word, to get into this space. And no one just sort of hops up and just goes, I'm going to do chatbots today. So it's interesting because it is such a new and developing space as to how people actually get there. So I really appreciate your time. I know listeners out there will have taken a lot from it. And thank you once again for joining us on the Chat Marketing Podcast.
Oh, thank you, Dan.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that chat with Mel Eilers of Socially Sound. She certainly has a unique lens on the space and how fast it's evolving after being in an industry like print that has certainly evolved drastically over the past couple of decades as well. Now, all the show notes for today's episode can be found at marketingpodcast.chat/session18. That's marketingpodcast.chat/session18. And Mel did mention Clubhouse, which reminds me, actually, if you head over to the platform there and follow me, I'm at Chat Marketing. You can even hit the little reminder bell to find out when I do a room. And I actually do a weekly room with some of the guests you've heard on this podcast that we've been chatting about some really interesting topics. So I hope to see you over there. Until then, though, and next week, thanks so much for your company. We'll chat soon.